that flopped due to very, very poor releases. We're only using examples that came out in the past couple of years. So we're going over 2022 and 2023 and 2024 movies. So, first one here I think was a flop due to its release date. We're going to go over all these movies very quickly. 2022 was a pretty slow year in movies. So I to probably get into summer for it to do. Because we had like weeks between movies, literally. And I think the first one is Morbius. I think Morbius is going to flop either way. But Lost City, which was a super hit, and Sonic 2 and Everything Everywhere All at Once were pretty good to decent hits. Then we have Morbius. No one went to go see this movie. You still had the Batman in theaters. But I think Morbius just flopped because people didn't like the movie. That isn't a very good example, but I think a pretty good example of this is Fantastic Beasts: The Secret of Dumbledore. It released exactly a week after Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which was a massive hit domestically and internationally, and people were recovering from the pandemic. It wasn't the summer box office, so people were saving money for stuff like Doctor Strange or Jurassic World. You ain't no one's gonna watch this movie, okay? Also, another reason why this movie flopped is because of Johnny Depp being excluded because of the whole Amber Heard thing. But again, the last movie wasn't very well received either. Same thing with this movie. Again, no one cares about Rotten Tomatoes thinks, but most people said the movie was meh, and this third movie didn't need to be made. But they were planning to make this into like a 5 to 6 part series, and absolutely no one went to go see this movie. And it lost against Sonic 2 very badly. And then next week we had The Bad Guys come out, which its competition didn't do too well. The Northman and Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Again, both those movies, I mentioned the reason why these movies probably flopped. Northman was because it was a weird movie. It was a very weird movie. And Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, do people really like Nicolas Cage that much? Probably not. And then we had May. And one movie is Firestarter. This movie should have been made in the first place, but they released it a week after Doctor Strange. You released it a week after the massive, massive movie. Doctor Strange, even if it wasn't a very good movie, still had a pretty great opening and still did pretty well on the second and third week. Same thing could be said of Downton Abbey and New Era, because Doctor Strange, I think, is when superhero movies start to decline. It really takes bad movies to really get people sick of a genre. I think Doctor Strange was the beginning of that. So yes. And then we actually had the Bob's Burgers movie, which, they launched it against Top Gun Maverick, which became one of the biggest movies of 2022. Launching it against such a massive movie was not a good thing to do. Heck, no one released anything in the week after, which caused the movie to have a very small drop-off. The fact that they released this against Top Gun was pretty bad for Paramount. For Disney, actually not Paramount released Top Gun Maverick. It was a pretty bad work for Disney. Okay, Disney was the one that released this movie because they thought people really liked Bob's Burgers that much. But no one went to go see this over Top Gun. Okay, no one went to go see Bob's Burgers, the movie, over Top Gun. Then we're going to go over here. We have Jurassic World. Then we have Lightyear. We see it between Top Gun was still making a decent amount of money. So that was always going to take a decent chunk of money away. Then we have Jurassic World Dominion and the awful advertising of Lightyear. Okay, two massive blockbusters versus Lightyear. And then the week afterwards we got the Elvis movie and Black Phone. Both movies are pretty successful, which means Lightyear was a massive failure. It seems that Pixar couldn't hold the weight of the soldier anymore against Jurassic World Dominion and Top Gun, and also the movie that came out afterwards. And the movie that came out 2 weeks afterwards, Minions: The Rise of Gru, which did very, very well at the box office. So Lightyear had no chance of being a successful movie, unless they delayed it and actually had decent advertising for the movie. I think, people called the movie flopping for being a Brandon Boyd movie, but the movie that released right before was Jurassic World Dominion, another movie that has been critically panned for being Brandon Boyd and an uninteresting movie. So it seems that and also Jurassic World Dominion's marketing was pretty amazing, or not gonna lie either. the whole advertisement about the dinosaurs in the real world, got people to be excited for the movie. I don't think they'll be able to recreate the movie. Barely hit $1 billion, but it did hit $1 billion at the box office. But Wars of Wars goes to the Jurassic World movies as well. Yeah. And then we didn't have many releases come out. You had Bullet Train, these bunch of non-franchise movies we release. Yeah. And the next month afterwards was a very slow month as well. But Smile was a pretty successful movie. Wow Wow Crocodile was I overhyped that movie basically, saying it was gonna be the first massive movie, but it didn't. No one watched it. Yeah. Yeah. But I think another movie, typically you have a lot of movies that come out during Christmas. This as well. Not really many movies, but the movies that released on December 23rd. Okay. Babylon and Whitney Houston, I Wanna Dance with Somebody. Both of these movies were massive, colossal failures. Despite Whitney Houston being one of the most beloved singers according to at least music critics, I don't know anyone who listens to Whitney Houston, and Babylon being the Oscar-hype movie, well, there were two movies that practically dominated the holiday season. Avatar: The Way of the Water and the counter-programming Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was so well received that it had extremely amazing remakes. Avatar was a massive movie. Heck, when the movie first released, everybody thought the movie was gonna flop, but the holidays saved Avatar from it being a flop. Now I can see why they release these movies during the holidays, because they know that people will just turn up to see them anyways, because even if the movie's complete garbage, hey, it's the new big shiny movie out. We gotta see it. That plan didn't work with Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, as it had to deal with many movies. And that was it for 2022. Now let's get to last year. Last year was a pretty infamous year of a lot of failures. The first part of the year was and then we have February, and I think the first one has got to be first one is 65. They released a dinosaur blockbuster movie against Creed 3, and Scream 6 movie wasn't received very well, and it not being a part of a franchise really hurt it, especially. Okay, I don't think anyone really cared about this movie all too much. Okay, I was going to see it on DVD, but I finally decided to know, I'm not going to waste my money on 65. Next movie is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Okay, they released Scream 6 and Creed 3 were pretty successful, but then, what movie we're going to watch? John Wick or Shazam? John Wick. Almost certainly, okay? John Wick was a much more popular character than Shazam. Okay, the first one released against Endgame a couple weeks before Endgame, but they released this right before. And this was the problem with Hollywood's release dates. They sort of released it in a different month. Probably in April, when there was nothing after the Mario movie. These were the grosses for the movie. Probably around... Oh wait, then they were released... this movie was dead on arrival. Okay, good release in February, but then you had to deal with Ant-Man. Then April, then you had to deal with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So there was no hope for this movie. Maybe they sort of released it around how... Oh wait, Avatar came out. It's just this movie was dead on arrival, and it signaled the death of the superhero movie overall. Then we have Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which is a pretty underrated movie, but they released this between John Wick and Mario. Okay, these were two very massive movies. Mario movie made $1 billion. I think I have a month for... Oh wait, we're gonna talk about Shazam. But Dungeons & Dragons is definitely the release date that was the problem. I think that the release date of Dungeons & Dragons really killed the movie, and the movie didn't do too well. Well, they are actually considering making a sequel with a smaller budget, but hopefully they choose a better release date for the sequel too. Because that is something that they did not talk about at all, was the release date against the Mario movie. One of the biggest movies of the year. Yeah. Then we're going to go over to May as well. And next is Book Club, the next chapter. Yeah, I actually made actually made a troll review on the first book club movie. Some 40-year-old woman probably got offended by the video and took it down. They released a sequel against Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Also, this movie called Love Again released against Guardians of the Galaxy 3. No one wanted to see it. But Book Club 2 was a sequel to Book Club, once again, no one went to go see the first movie. So, yeah. Then there was released against Fast X 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Fast X was a massive disappointment for the Fast and the Furious franchise. The reason why is because it underperformed greatly in China. They were expecting this movie to make $1 billion, and they spent like $400 million on this, so they're expecting this movie to make at least $300-400 million in China alone, as well. Yeah. And then we have Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Okay, Rise of the Beasts released against Spider-Man and the Flash, which Flash was a flop anyways. But they really screwed this movie over against Spider-Verse. Maybe they sort of swapped Transformers and Flash release date because Flash was dead on arrival anyways because of the Ezra Miller controversies. So Transformers sort of been, released around June 16th against Elemental, which again, that movie is for kids. So Transformers would have been the counter programming to it. I think Transformers would have actually had a better opening, but Transformers: Rise of the Beast also didn't do too well in China, a franchise that is normally successful and popular in China, not doing too well. And this is actually a trend with some of these releases overall. Next movie is Ruby Gillman. So we had some pretty successful movies over the past couple of weeks. Elemental had a comeback, as we all know, over the next couple of weeks. And Spider-Verse did pretty well all weeks later. Then they released against Indiana Jones, which wasn't a very successful movie. Then the movie Sound of Freedom became very popular. And then Insidious released, and Ruby Gillman didn't make a single cent at the box office, only making $50 million as well. Yeah. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mostly because this movie underperforms massively in China, which again is a trend with 2023 flops. Underperformed massively in China. For a franchise that historically has done well in China, the last Mission Impossible movie made like $100-200 million at the box office. The movie only made like $50 million. It's the same thing with Transformers and Fast X. And then, what two movies released right after Mission Impossible? And yeah, everyone was thinking this was going to be the big, massive movie of the year. Like, this was going to have like $2 billion or something. But this will release on the date when nothing is coming out. Okay. Considering that Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny would have flopped anyways, regardless of what came out. Guess what came out afterwards? Barbie and Oppenheimer. Yeah, you really screwed up over with that one, Mission Impossible. Okay, I guess Mission Impossible it's Mission Impossible to become a successful movie. Next is Haunted Mansion. They released a movie about the Haunted Mansion in July. Yeah, everybody was like, really? And then Barbie and Oppenheimer were still in theaters. I think this really played into the next couple of releases, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Meg 2, and The Last Voyage of Demeter. I think really was hampered by these two releases right here. But I think these movies had a lot of money taken away from them because of Barbie and Oppenheimer. But both of those movies still ended up being successful, unlike Haunted Mansion as well. And then we had nothing. This is the problem with Hollywood's release schedule. They sort of released some of these movies like later in August. I don't know why I was too scared to release these movies. Well, I guess the summer schedule and kids are going back to school. But you could release Mission Impossible, a movie that's more for more adult audiences, around August or September. September you had Equalizer 3 and then The Nun 2. And then Expendables 4, movie that didn't need to be made. Sax and Paw Patrol, and then we had The Creator, was released against a Paw Patrol and Saw, non-franchise movie, didn't do too well. It was an original story too, and no one went to go see it. Absolutely 0 people went to go see it. And then the week afterwards, we got The Exorcist movie, the Taylor Swift movie, and then it's just The Creator fizzled out very quickly. Same thing could be said about The Killers of the Flower Moon. Taylor Swift and FNAF destroyed that movie at the box office as well. And then we have The Marvels. Once again, this was a very weak bunch of weekends. But I think the biggest one was Risk. There was just too much movies coming out, and there was Hunger Games, Thanksgiving, Trolls, Napoleon, Risk, and Risk was just like the random movie that released. Like I get how Disney wants the Thanksgiving week, but there were so many movies coming out as well, And then we had week afterwards Godzilla come out, and it's just yeah. Then we have the holidays. Usually, I won't consider a holiday movie a bad weekend to release it in because they know these movies will do pretty well. Well, but I think Color Purple was a pretty bad release date. They released it around Christmas. Yes, it broke a record for the Christmas day, but the movie basically fizzled out and died. You had so many movies released already. Wonka, you had Aquaman, Anyone But You, which was a super hit, Migration, another super hit movie, and Iron Claw, which eventually turned a profit. Boys in the Boat, Color Purple, and Ferrari couldn't stand a chance against these movies that already released, and it already made a very crowded Christmas weekend even more crowded. And now I go over to this year, 2024. Yeah. And yeah. I think the only movie that could be an example of this is Ghostbusters. Stirs. The new Ghostbusters, where they released it against all these massive movies. But now let's go back to 2019, before the pandemic, and see any bad releases. First one is Dog's Way Home. They released against The Upside and Escape Room. Escape Room was a pretty decently successful movie. Upside was a pretty successful movie. It was a remake of an old movie. And then you had Grass and Dragon Ball come out. Not really very good for Dog's Way Home, a sequel to Dog's Journey. Then we had Miss Bauer. Like, what the hell title was that? They released it on the Super Bowl weekend. And then afterwards, they released the Lego Movie 2, which was a massive financial disappointment because the novelty of the first movie welled off. Then we have this mess of a weekend. Okay, Happy Death Day got a sequel. There was this unknown movie called Alita that came out. And then Isn't It Romantic? And, How to Train Dragon released the week after. I think the movie that was screwed over the most was actually unironically the Lego Movie 2. You had these three big movies releasing on Valentine's Day, and you had also How to Train Dragon, another animated movie releasing 2 weeks later, and it was not a good setting for the Lego Movie 2. Alita was a niche movie that many people didn't really went to go see, and Isn't It Romantic was a rom-com which didn't do too well because people don't like the actress who was in it. Yeah, she had 5 movies in 2019. So, for some weird reason. And Happy Death Day to You was also released. And then we had Our Train Dragon, and then we had a Medea movie, and then we had Captain Marvel release. It's just, nothing went good for this Lego movie sequel. Cool. And I think that, another example, of course you could use Alita as another example. That was a big movie that was sandwiched between the Lego Movie 2 and How to Train Dragon, but Lego Movie 2, I think, lost more money than Alita. Both movies had a pretty, at least Alita, they released it around February. The movie actually overperformed what it was going to make as well, but the ratings were not very great for the movie. And you know what the ironic thing is? This movie still outsold the Marvels. Yes, I like how there was this whole war between Alita and Captain Marvel. But Alita eventually got her revenge against the sequel of Captain Marvel, which is pretty hilarious, as both movies open very similarly. So yes, Alita did win against Captain Marvel. It won against the sequel. And he's like, he like even unadjusted for inflation, the movie still managed to do better because of how bad the ratings for the Marvels was. That still managed to outgross, and of course, if it doesn't for inflation, the numbers get even worse for the Marvels. So yes, Alita did eventually win against Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, and won against the sequel to Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. But yeah. Now let's get to the more movies that released. And March, And we have Wonder Park. This movie was a movie that no one wanted. There was Us, Dumbo, uh, 5 Feet Apart. Just as well as Wonder Park, which is a small budget movie, and then there was Captain Marvel. Wonder Park was like, why did they make this? What was the purpose of this? Then there was also Captive State, which was a like, weird. I think that was the weird movie about aliens in the south side of Chicago. I could be wrong, you know. Yeah, it was basically the south side of Chicago fighting aliens. It was like, who wanted to see this? Okay. Then we have in April of 2019 the Hellboy reboot. You know, and the Curse of Aurora. Both movies I think could be counted here, and Missing Link as well. 3 movies. You know what movie released in April? Avengers Endgame, one of the biggest movies of all time. Yeah, it's funny they won't release Ghostbusters in April, but they'll release Avengers in April. Hollywood is a very strange place, almost certainly. Okay? Like, Avengers opened in April, they didn't open in the summer weekend. It was so successful that nothing that made afterwards made money. So that includes Wrong Shot, The Intruder, and Ugly Dolls. Now they made money. So I think Intruder might have been. But yeah, Avengers Endgame was such a successful movie that no movie dared to release around it. Then we had Detective Pikachu come out, which did pretty well. John Wick did pretty well. Then Aladdin. Then we have the most overrated movie of all time. Oh wait, no one likes this movie. Oh wait, here's A Dog's Journey. That's the sequel to Dog's Purpose. Because that's the one that's a sequel to Dog's. Is this the one sequel to Dog's Purpose? Because yeah, it is a sequel to Dog's Purpose. Okay, the other dog movie is not a sequel to Dog's Purpose. Dog's Journey is a sequel to Dog's Purpose. Why did they even make a sequel to that movie? That is my question. But I think the biggest failure of these all was The Hustle and all these non-franchise movies, the Dog sequel. But I think the biggest one was Booksmart. Okay, every critic talked about how great Booksmart was, but no one talks about the movie in 2023. Talk about a movie that aged poorly. Okay, I actually watched the movie and it was like the most, unfunny pile of crap ever. And this is considered one of the best movies of the year according to Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, best movies of 2019, Booksmart. Okay, but they released it against the Aladdin remake, and then John Wick released the week prior. There was also Pikachu and Endgame and still in theaters. And the week after, we got Godzilla released alongside Elton John's movie. Yeah, Booksmart, which was supposed to become one of the most successful and greatest movies of all time, at least according to the critics, well, no one went to go see it because they released it against all these big movies. Then we have Dark Phoenix, and, you had all these. So you had so many movies released, like, really? You had Pets 2. I think this is the problem, is people were, like, getting burned out. You had Godzilla still in theaters, you had Aladdin still in theaters, you had John Wick and Pikachu, and even Endgame still in theaters. And you had Man in Black released a week after. The, you know, and then you had Toy Story 4 released a couple weeks later. And then you had this awful release schedule. Anna and Child Play. Neither movie stood a chance against Toy Story 4. Neither movie stood a chance. Like, it is not even close. Okay, these movies have been delayed to let's make Toy Story 4 the only release. Or release it, weeks earlier. Or weeks later. Or let's probably make a 4 month. Child's Play, that movie still made money. But Anna was a massive failure. No one went to go see the movie. Annabelle and Spider-Man Far From Home. Then we had Midsommar, another very overrated movie that critics loved and praise. But it still lost against Spider-Man. It's ironic that these movies that are praised by these stupid critics, no one goes to see them, but they're like, why do people love these blockbusters, but not something like Booksmart and Midsommar? These smart and intelligent movies. But no one went to go see either movie, so yeah, it's... Then we also have Yesterday, was released against Toy Story and Spider-Man as well. We also have Crawl and Stuber, was released again between two major movies. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Fast and Furious did pretty well. Well, and 47 Meters Down on the sequel to that either way. And then we had Uh, this release schedule. Downton Abbey was a sleeper hit, but their releases against Ad Astra, which was a massive failure, and Rambo, which was a small loss for Lionsgate. But Ad Astra was the real failure here. This is after Disney bought Fox, so this was a loss for Disney. So Ad Astra was a massive failure. It was a pretty bad movie too. It was very boring and dull of a movie. Then we have Gemini Man, Joker and Addams Family, and Maleficent and Zombieland. All these major movies came out and they defeated all of these movies. Then we had Arctic Dogs, was released against Harriet and Terminator. And then later we had all these massive movies released. And we had November 8th. What the hell is this? So we have 4 movies. Last Christmas, Doctor Sleep, which I think is a sequel to a movie, Playing with Fire, which is like a family movie, and Midway. Midway was actually the most successful of these 4 movies. And Last Christmas... No, Midway was the highest grossing. Last Christmas was the most successful of these movies, along with Doctor Sleep and Playing with Fire. Midway was the only movie that really flopped because of how much it took to cost to make the movie. But then, a week afterwards, we got 4 Viva La, which is a very well-received movie, and Frozen 2. Yeah, these movies stood no chance, all 5 of them. Also, Parasite movies wide, but that movie made a lot of money in Korea, so that didn't really count. And we have A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which was advertised as a pretty, it was based off some really famous guy, but Frozen 2 destroyed it at the box office. Knives Out did too. Then you had the Playmobil movie. Got destroyed by Frozen 2, and no one liked that movie. It broke records in all the wrong ways. And then we had Richard Jewell and Black Christmas. Then we have Cats. Okay. One of the worst movies of all time releasing against Star Wars. Yeah, not a very good idea to release one of the worst movies of all time against Star Wars. Yes, this is why Star Wars made $1 billion, because it released against Cats. Also, Jumanji also released as well. But if your competition is 2 hours of creepy cats, yeah. And that's all movies that flopped due to the release dates from 2019 to 2024. 2024 doesn't have very many examples because we're just into this year. We have just entered April. But I think the only movie that could count so far is Ghostbusters. So there's a New Empire. They released it against Kung Fu Panda 4, Dune Part 2, and Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire. All 3 movies were extremely successful. Okay, then you had this Ghostbusters just sitting down, like, why am I here? Like, all of these very successful movies, and you had Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Or you can throw in Offer the King, but again, I think they just put it out so we can have something to release on that day. It was a minor movie anyways, it wasn't going to make it much money. But it's just so funny, at least Ghostbusters against all these massive movies. And I was expecting it to make the same amount of money as the rest of the movies. And actually, it did worse than Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's doing worse than that movie at the current moment. Which is funny, if you put a comparison to it, Ghostbusters Afterlife is doing way better. At the same time, Ghostbusters has passed $100 million. Afterlife passed $100 million. Even the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, the one that everyone hates, well, that movie is still doing way better than Afterlife as well. No, not Afterlife. Frozen Empire as well. It really shows you that movie, Ghostbusters 2016, really did kill the Ghostbusters franchise. As Ghostbusters is a franchise, if you adjust it for inflation, hasn't recovered since. Okay, Ghostbusters hasn't recovered since Ghostbusters 2016. It has only gone downhill. With Ghostbusters Afterlife was a pretty good movie, but Frozen Empire, it really showed that the movie, this is a series that is definitely in decline. I think if 2016 was never made, Ghostbusters and Frozen Empire would have been made way more. So I guess maybe 2016 might be to blame for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire not doing too well as well, because no one liked that movie. No one liked the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. I'm just being honest here. I'm not trying to be a troll or an anti-SJW. It's just the facts. I don't know a single person who said, oh yeah, I love the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. I really do. Yeah, it said no one ever. And that really shows the failure of the modern Ghostbusters movies. I think people will be sticking to the classic movie instead of watching these new movies. Goodbye.